What's shaking, everyone? So today we're going to discuss the Wexit movement. Now, I didn't slur by saying Brexit, I mean Wexit. Now, that is a movement for everybody west of Manitoba to secede from Canada. I think it's a fucking brain dead proposition, but we're going to dig into what they're about, why they have a legitimate claim, and why I think it's a fucking brain dead proposition. But before we do that, I'd just like to thank everybody who's been watching lately. The outpouring of support has been tremendous, and I really appreciate every single one of you taking the time to click on this video. And hey, if there's a topic or anything you'd like for me to discuss or do a deeper dive in for you, feel free to drop it in that comment section down below. And while you're down there, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button or just dropping a like, both do a great deal for the channel. And boy, you know what, it really makes me feel good. It makes me feel wanted out there. So once again, thanks guys, and let's just go ahead and dig right into this crap, because I right now have the general election map for 2019 pulled up, and it paints a very just a real shit picture for anybody who kind of holds conservative values. Now, I live here in Alberta. It is as red, if you're a US watcher, it is as red as places like Arizona, the Deep South. I can't even say Texas anymore, and that makes me sad. Forever and forever and a day, Alberta has been a conservative stronghold, and it rarely means nothing, because Canadian government works on a House of Commons system where each constituent has one vote, and it's all divided up by population size. And because Alberta holds, in the top 10, there's two cities, Edmonton right there. Let's just bring up the the Alberta map rather. You got Edmonton right here, and you got Calgary down here. And as you can see, in the entire province, there is only one little speck that went not conservative. It went for the fucking socialist NDP, which makes me sick to my core. But that's Edmonton for you. Fucking terrible ideas. But all of our interests continue to get sold down the river for the benefit of places like Ontario and Quebec. Quebec especially. Now, what I got pulled up here is how Alberta pays Quebec's bills. 4 charts that show Alberta picks up the tab. Nearly $250 billion of Albertan cash has been funneled to Quebec. We have, in our entire province, 4 million people. I know, fucking Canada is just flush with people. Second largest land mass, second largest country size by land mass, but yeah, next to nobody's here, and I like it that way, so you guys stay where the fuck you are. Anyways, yeah, look at these imbalance payments, okay? We have a system up here in Canada that disproportionately taxes the wealthy and gives to the poor. Now, if that sounds familiar, it probably should be, but we're allegedly a democracy, but doesn't really operate like that when it comes to dollars and cents. And Alberta bears a substantial amount of this. Well, you take a look here. We pay a little over $600 billion since 1961. This chart here looks at the payments from 1961 through 2017. The only other province that pays anything close to that is just a little better than $700 billion paid by Ontario, and they have an overwhelming chunk of the population. Therefore, they should probably be making that type of payment. But then you look at Quebec, who's not that far off in population size, and they've contributed just under... Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke by saying contributed. They have taken just about $500 billion in that same time frame. And we can't forget about the locusts that are out there on the East Coast and the Maritimes that continue to just take money and I don't know, we get fucking dope seafood from them. But as much as I do love some fresh lobster, I don't think it justifies the fact that we have to shell out so much money to those fucking welfare patients. Then we dive right into more recent times where, post the oil boom and the sustained growth of one economy in the entire country, well, one provincial economy in the entire country, and yeah, only Alberta's kicking anything significant out. BC also benefits. So take a look. We'll just jump back to this election map here for a quick second. You look at all of these blue regions here in British Columbia. That's because when you cross the border over here, you get places like Fort McMurray, Dawson Creek. They are very similar to what Grand Prairie, where I'm from, is they hold to be their values. And they are also very flush with natural gas and oil as well. So naturally, they tend to be more conservative, and that's why these payments tend to reflect as such. But BC, this is the main crux of why I'm not a fan of the Wexit movement. BC has horrible political tastes. It's like, okay, I'll make an analogy for the states. Alberta's a lot like Texas. It's relative in the same size. And then right next to it, you have BC. And you've got everybody that lives in places like Fort St. John and Dawson Creek that move over to Alberta because A, we don't have a provincial sales tax. Our taxes in general are substantially lower, and we have far fewer things that are federalized or provincialized in comparison rather to British Columbia. Like, we were one of the first provinces to decentralize the liquor board, so, well, to the detriment rather of strip malls everywhere. There's pot shops and fucking liquor stores on every corner. We as Albertans have benefited from some very great leadership, but unfortunately in the recent history we had a downturn in proper leadership. We had this great premier, Ralph Klein. Those who are not Albertans don't quite understand. This guy was Reagan-esque in his policies. He was the one who was responsible for decentralizing a lot of these institutions that need not be controlled by the government. And man, we were in a significant deficit prior to Ralph Klein taking office, and man, he balanced the budget and created a surplus where I was in middle school and every resident of Alberta received $500 stimulus check. That was everybody. I was 12 or 13 at the time and I got $500. That's how good we were doing. And then abruptly Ralph retired, and then we got pierogi humping idiot Ed Stelmach, and then the single worst premier in Alberta history, and even worse than the one NDP, which for some baffling reason for 4 years we were under some pseudo-socialist control, because Alison Redford, the final appointed premier of Alberta from the Progressive Conservative Party, did such a fucking terrible job while she was in office. And that's one of the problems with being such a deeply conservative province. You end up with anybody being elected that has a conservative tag next to their name. And without Alison Redford, we never would have got the idiot that was Rachel Notley, who instituted a carbon tax before fucking Justin Trudeau even made office, and completely kneecapped our economy by putting in so many fucking regulations. She put us into a little pseudo-recession in the early teens before our current premier, Jason Kenney, who I think is doing a reasonably good job. He is not quite Klein-esque in his policies, but he's the best that we've got, at least in my lifetime. With that little history lesson aside, you can see here since 2007, Alberta's been bearing the brunt of these equalization payments in order to bail out all of these consistently liberal, idiotic other governments that don't produce fuck all. Alberta's the only place that's been consistently making any sort of economic growth. And this is just the starkest contrast you're ever going to see. Yeah, this chart shows how from 2007 to 2018, Alberta was a big positive net contributor to federal finances. It paid more in taxes than it received in federal programs and transfers. Quebec, over the same period, was the reverse. Literally looks like somebody put a mirror down there. We, as Albertans, continue year over year over year, and then you can see that's right there where Rachel Notley and her shitty policies really took hold, because she was elected in 2014, and that's when everything really started to shit the bed. And that's where our lowest points ever that are covered by this graph here. And if this looks like a big middle finger for anybody else, well, absolutely should be. Like, just take a look at this. Okay, some more equal than others. The National Post does a pretty decent job. It is one of the only, you can't even say right-leaning in Canada, because for those who aren't from Canada, you guys don't quite understand. There is no party that really sticks up for conservative values or anything that's not left of center. You have the conservative part. If you were to have the spectrum, you have conservatives now who are just about smack dab in the middle. And then next to them is probably over here off screen, you have the Liberals and the NDP nowadays who are so far left wing, there's going to have to be an epic collapse in ideology in order for them to be reformed. Idiots in these super populated areas keep voting for these fucking idiots of issues just like this. Alberta keeps bearing the brunt of all of these equalization payments, and bad ideas just keep getting subsidized without any sort of repercussions. They can continue to squander in green ideas, and the most recent thing that came up was Justin Trudeau importing $19 billion in oil. Fucking Alberta and northern Saskatchewan are sitting on piles of it, literally. And then you get these idiots like Rachel Notley or Justin Trudeau who want to kneecap the oil and gas industry by putting on these retarded, unproven environmental regulations, effectively killing your local economy just so you can continue to globalize the country. Not to get too conspiratorial, but something has to explain the fact that you import $19 billion worth of something that we could just easily go dig up in a matter of weeks. So now that I've laid out the fact that Alberta keeps getting fucked in the ass by the commies out east, I'm gonna run down what Wexit actually stands for. So our mandate is to advocate for the democratic separation of the western provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia, into an independent and sovereign country apart from Eastern Canada. We believe the best long-term solution for the people of Western Canada is to separate themselves from Eastern Canada in order to be free and economically prosper as an independent country. I would tend to agree with some of that. One of their big problems is with the, well, let's just read this. The globalist, urban-based climate change movement is powerful because it is based on fear psychology, not fact, science, or common sense. Ugh, you're really making it tough for anybody who's, a little adverse to this scare tactic. The climate fear lobby will be zealously uncompromising in its efforts to shut down the Western resource-based economy, which, okay, if you can parse through their horseshit, you can kind of agree with. This is not acceptable and cannot be allowed to continue in the future. So they don't really have too much of a plan. This is their entire mandate on their website. They just want to take their ball and go home. Now, the fact that they want to bring along British Columbia is kind of retarded. British Columbia, if Alberta's Texas, British Columbia's California, rich with vast resources, a beautiful, beautiful province. They just are always liberal or NDP kneecapping governments. Imagine if Wexit is successful. Now let's just hypothetically think that, okay, these four provinces are going to take their balls and get the fuck out. Let's analogize it as somebody who's taking better care of themselves. They're going on a diet. They're starting to exercise every day. But they're also going to start taking up a pack of smokes a day. They're also going to start smoking a pack a day. Like, it's fucking retarded. You're inviting cancer right into your body by bringing along British Columbia. take that little part that shares Alberta ideas if you're going to do this sedition idea, which I think is totally fucking ill-fated and baked. Now, if Quebec was successful in separating in the late 90s, like they tried a couple times and were within a percentage point of actually succeeding in, a lot of these problems may or may not have, I don't know, kind of flushed themselves out, but I think Wexit is just a not very well thought out. It's not even that big, but lately I've been seeing a fair few signs in support, but that could be just the place I'm in. Grand Prairie is a very weird sort of situation where you've got a bunch of dropouts who make a ton of money working on the rigs and starting their own welding business, but they couldn't count to 50 if you spotted them a case of kokanee. What I'd be for is a reformation of the national electoral process. Now, we should have some sort of electoral college like the US has, where the Alberta vote, the Saskatchewan vote, they mean more, or they have a fair shake, because right now it's essentially popular vote. Let's be completely real. And for those idiots out there that keep screaming about abolishing the electoral college, just take a look up north and you're going to find that it's essentially a one-party rule now, and it will be for the next foreseeable future, because, not to tip my hand, I'd want to desperately do a deep dive on Justin Trudeau and his 3 ethics violations, and the fact that he's a social justice warrior in chief that makes Emmanuel Macron blush. But with all of his excess baggage and blackface in tow, nearly 40% of the electorate would still vote for him, because all of our national broadcasters, we don't have a Fox News alternative. We have CTV and CBC, and they are governmentally funded, and they are propaganda wings for the Liberal parties. So Canada is right proper fucked. Thank God I have family in the United States that I can escape to if shit gets even worse than it is right now. But I love Alberta. I want her to succeed, and I just don't think Wexit's the right way to go about things. I think some sort of federal reformation is necessary. But thanks for watching this, guys. This is a super niche topic, and hey, get some more of my values out there. And it also kind of bashes this hyper-conservative idea of Western separation, which, yeah, hey, can't say I don't criticize both sides on my channel now. Aha. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. I've been Khan Swaylo, and I want you guys to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.